about another ongoing story, and that is the issue of trans women prisoners. After we saw the jailing of Isla Bryson, a convicted double rapist, on Tuesday. Didn't get to that story at all yesterday because there was so much else to talk about with the lockdown files. But let's talk about this now with the director of Keep Prisons Single Sex. That's Kate Coleman. Good morning to you, Kate.
Good morning.
I would say we're all delighted, I think, to know that rapist, a man, because under law you can't commit rape unless you've got a penis, and only men have penises. Sorry to break this to everybody, particularly in the SNP leadership. Has been we knew already convicted and has gone to jail, quite rightly, in a man's prison. And yet we've still got the ridiculous situation of one of the SNP leadership hopefuls, Humza Yousaf, the sort of continuity sturgeon candidate, saying that the trans rapist should still have the right to self-identify as female. But again, if he can self-identify as a woman and say he's a woman, he should be in a woman's prison. And they've already decided he shouldn't in Scotland be in a woman's prison. You can't have it both ways, can you?
Well, no, you can't. And I think, this is what happens when reality bites, isn't it? And you can see that they're still desperately trying to cling to the trans women are women, acceptance with no exception, you are what you say you are, self-ID is the right way forwards. But still trying to recognise what happens when the reality of biological sex as registered at birth becomes salient and becomes important. And you're quite right, you can't have it both ways. I feel sorry for him. Possibly just a tiny little bit. And I don't know, because he's in this situation where he's got to attempt to do the impossible, which is to keep everybody happy. He's got to keep the gender identity.
Humza Yousaf, same as Nicola Sturgeon, all the others, and again, whether it's whether it's Keir Starmer, and any of these people, we've got the same issue, which is that they want to say the nice things so they can go to the right dinner parties and be thought of as a nice person, even though they must know it's not true. They must know it's not true, because these aren't stupid people. And again, this is nothing to do with being transphobic or bigoted or wanting people who want to live as the opposite gender. I don't care. You can wear a wig, you can have false boobs, you can wear a skirt. I don't care. You can call yourself Dolly. I don't care. I want you to live your best life. I don't want anyone to abuse you. I don't want you to be discriminated against. I want you to live your best life. It doesn't make any difference to me, except where it does, and where it does in women's single-sex spaces, which were there for a reason. And this is the issue, isn't it? They knew that this issue had been raised, the issue of sex offenders and violent offenders who were men saying they thought they were women, going into women's prisons. They specifically...
We were told it never happened.
They said it never happened.
It never happened.
There was
were bigoted, transphobic, dog whistle issuing, filibustering time wasters raising this issue. And look, here we are. We were right. Here we are. And this is the situation we now have to deal with. A question I would really like people to be asking Mr. Yousaf is, would he accept a trans woman into the female section of his local mosque? Would he fight for the rights of a trans woman to be accepted fully as a woman under Islam? To be in the same washing facilities as the other women in the mosque before prayer. To see those women take off their hijab, to partially, disrobe in order to undertake the required ablutions prior to prayer. I would love to know the answer to that question. And I would absolutely love one of your journalist colleagues to be posing that question.
I'd love to ask it myself. We, of course, have bid for interviews with all the three rival candidates to take over from Nicola Sturgeon, who's going to be the next First Minister of Scotland, after all. Yet to have anyone say yes. I wonder why, but that's certainly a question that needs to be asked. The thing, again, as we say, this issue, they knew it was going to come up. It had already come up. It happened twice in the week when this was a big story. It basically brought down Nicola Sturgeon. Fascinatingly, this rapist, again, that's what he is. He is, by the way, if I see one more news article or hear one more newsreader say, Isla Bryson, who's convicted of raping two women when she was a man. She is a man, was a man, will always be a man. He he is a man. Now, his real name is Adam Graham. That's not, by the way, his dead name. That's his rapist name. Do stick to this. He is on the waiting list for gender reassignment surgery. Now, we understand he has been given a medication, hormone treatment. Whether he's taking it or not is another matter, given that his wife and everyone else who knows him says this was something he'd never talked about. It was only something that came up since his rape charges. But he is on the waiting list. NHS waiting list is years long for gender reassignment surgery. I am basically, lopping off bits and replacing them. I was thinking we should have a crowdfunder. I'll put in £100. We get him that surgery as soon as possible privately. Would you want to contribute to that? I'm sure if he's that keen to live his life as a woman, he'd be keen to get that surgery as soon as possible, wouldn't he?
I mean, as tempting as that is, I wouldn't, because I believe medicalised self-harm.
I agree with you, really.
Anybody should be facilitated in undergoing such drastic surgery, which has such a high rate of lifelong complications. I think it's appalling that we're facilitating the removal of completely healthy organs when we wouldn't under any other circumstances, whether that's girls getting double mastectomies or it's men, as you accurately put it, having everything lopped off. But yes, I mean, I do take your point.
Yeah. It's a glib point, but you made a very, very serious point there. It is a very, very drastic surgery and should not be considered, just as something that is just easily done. Kate Coleman, you've done fantastic work on this issue. Director of Keep Prisons Single Sex. Thank you for joining us. 8:45 is the time. This is Talk Breakfast.